Hello everyone, welcome to Sniper Sundays. Hope you're all well. Had a great weekend, bank holiday weekend for those in England, but doesn't really mean much bank holidays while we're all in lockdown at the moment, most of us anyway. But talking about lockdown, we have in the UK, we have the UK Prime Minister speaking this evening about the lockdown and possibly easing lockdown in the UK. So depending on what he says, that could potentially, possibly, there's always a chance, make a difference to the pound. So we'll be watching that this evening and be aware of that for market open. So we had, coming off the back of a bit of a mixed week, we had a nice trade, took one nice trade, give us some profit for last week, though we didn't really get the amount of trades that we had hoped for, really, and what we were kind of being shown by the charts about midweek. But given that we had to take those trades, sort of all of those setups are still pending, which makes this week even better as well, because we didn't get onto those trades last week, but the trades that we're looking at, we've been sort of frustratingly been watching and been patiently waiting for them to come through, and it looks like it will be this week. So if I just go to the economic calendar, this is something, again, I'll repeat it, I say it all the time, but something as little as this can help you trading by just looking ahead of what's coming ahead fundamentally for the day ahead and for the week ahead. So I always say that it's always important to look at what's coming next week, not just the next day or the next few hours. You have to sort of understand what the market's going to do. So if there's going to be big news next week, then if you're looking at a pair, then potentially that pair is not going to make that move until that big news next week. So for instance, you know that we've been looking at Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar to make that drop. Well, obviously we know that what moves the market, what triggers the market to have either a big move in the market or a trend reversal or push price to certain levels before you see a big change is fundamental. So for instance, if we look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar, we've been looking at the potential shorts coming on this. We've been waiting on New Zealand dollar, US dollar to take out this high when it was within this range to come up, pop up here before we look at taking a short. But if we just look ahead of the news, we got New Zealand dollar news Monday morning, 2 a.m. So not long after the market open. And then later in the week, we've got, I'll just get to it quickly. We've got more New Zealand dollar news. And I believe we have Aussie dollar news, do we? Yeah, Aussie dollar news, employment and unemployment rate on Thursday. So these are the big movers and the big, like we had the non-farm payroll for the US on Friday. We got the big news for New Zealand dollar and Aussie dollar on Monday and Wednesday and Thursday. So basically Wednesday, Thursday is the big day for NZD and Aussie dollar. So what you have to think now is, okay, we know that these are going to be the hot pairs. We know that these are the pairs that we're going to see lots of movement in. Also the US pairs, we can see here, US retail sales on Friday, very important. Euro news on Friday. Let's just go back to Thursday. We've got the Aussie dollar news, New Zealand dollar news again, pound news, US dollar. We've got a bit of everything, but the main sort of the hot pairs are going to be US dollar, Aussie dollar, and New Zealand dollar. And coming out this week, we've got, as I said, policy statement, rate statement coming from the Royal Bank of New Zealand, and then we've got the unemployment rate coming out from Aussie dollar. So these pairs, Aussie dollar, that we've been looking at, for instance, Aussie dollar, US dollar, we've been looking at potentially shorting. They're just priming, waiting, and looking ahead of next week. I had been eyeing up the big news that's coming next week, and that's why when we were within this zone, I didn't expect quite a push up here. I was looking at us potentially coming up here and then maybe reversing, but also keeping in mind that we do have that news next week. So that's what's more than likely going to make the market move. So we're having a little pop up here, possibly a prop up, a little pump before the dump next week. And the same with New Zealand dollar, US dollar. We're within a range. Market's just playing around, saying, okay, come short me here. I'll trick you here, come up here, take longs, and then it reverses back the other way. So what I'm looking at here is the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar news, we're being highly effective next week on these pairs. Now, what the other thing we have to understand is once we know that there's news ahead, so for instance, if we're looking at taking a short and we're looking at seeing a big a big swing trade on, say, NZD USD, from here, we know that we need something to move the market. It's not just going to just drop out the air for no reason. The market doesn't work like that. Just because the technicals line up, you need the fundamentals to give it to be the catalyst to push it and to give price basically a kick up the arse to get moving. Otherwise, it's just going to continue where it was until something changes it. Now, as I said, if you see news up, a price up here, it's not just going to drop. We know that price is pushing up, and we're waiting for something to happen. It can continue to push up, don't get me wrong, but at the moment, where the technicals are pointing that we could see a push back down, we now know, okay, well, the news isn't coming out for another 2-3 days, so we need to be wary of that, and we might need to wait until those days come. Even from last week, you might need to wait until the following week, and just understand that that is in front of us, there's big news coming for these pairs. So the other thing, once we understand that we got news next week, is also understanding about pricing it in. Now, for instance, I said to you guys, again, mark this down, on non-farm payroll week, always look for the US dollar to start making a move from the very, very early part of the week. It basically starts pricing it in. So you can see here, we go back to the US dollar, straight from the off. We called this on the Sniper Sundays last week, but it just didn't give us a chance to get in. We were calling to find support. This was the finish on last Friday. Very, 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 very bearish. So we're looking for price to find support here or here, and that we were going to aim at coming back up to the top. Analysis played out perfectly. However, when the market opened, we gapped from down here all the way up to here on market open, and then we just continued to push up and didn't give us a chance to get in. Not on the US dollar index, but on a lot of the US dollar pairs. We didn't have the sort of swing pullback that we want. That pullback, we had minor pullbacks, very minor pullbacks here, just a little pullback here, a little pullback here. But we want sort of bigger for better risk reward and less risk basically, because when you have a very small retracement, if you take a long here, which can be done, it's not a problem, but your stop loss really is a risk of getting taken out, because the retracement can be slightly bigger before pushing back down. Now, I explained on this that on Friday they were expecting a pullback as a retracement before pushing up higher, which I still expect. But just to add to what I was saying is, see how on non-farm payroll week, how the US dollar started from the market open and continued to push all the way to Friday. Then on Friday, what happened? Bang, big sell-off once again. So we have now come back down to sort of this area that filled that gap, and this was the last candle on Friday. So again, like I said last Friday, I never really take this into consideration, because the last candle on a Friday can be very, very false. So just like it was last Friday, the previous Friday, big bearish candle, and then what happened? Opened up higher than the whole of Friday's price action in. So yeah, it's still looking at the US dollar. I'm still expecting this I still think this is the retracement that we were due. As you can see here, coming back to 78% retracement level. Fibonacci lines up perfectly with previous resistance. I do think we can go on and take out the higher Fibonacci extension, and before then seeing a complete reversal on the US dollar. So at the moment, we can see here, we're going to need to watch this obviously on market open. With the way it closed, it's hard to say 100%. It's always hard. You can never say anything 100%. But I do prefer still this to push up higher and come up to this level here. As I said, we've got this Fibonacci. We take this from the top to this significant low down here. Here, top to bottom. You can see here, that level that I marked out for the Fibonacci extension lies smack bang in the middle of the 71 to 78.6% retracement level. So good potential move up to those sort of highs. But first, aiming to come back up and test these highs. Though we look very, very bearish right now. Overall, last week we've been quite bullish. I expect this to maybe push back down into these levels again. Continue that push from Friday. And then from here, I will be looking at this to push back up again. But that's what we're looking at the moment. But as I said, take on board that this was priced in from last Monday, Sunday night, Monday. bullish dollar all week before the non-farm payroll. It got moving straight away, and doesn't give retail traders a chance to really get the best positions. Now, if we go back to Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar, we know we've got news coming out this week, so we want to also be watching from very early in the week. It may already be sort of priced in from last week. We've seen the US dollar selling off as well now. So if the US dollar is selling off on Friday, Aussie dollar has been pushing up, obviously the weaker US dollar. So if the US dollar does gain strength from around these levels and push back up, and the Aussie dollar news is weak, or we see a negative reaction from the Aussie dollar, this has the potential to literally melt, and melt big time. And so does New Zealand dollar. So with these pairs, I'll just cover these first actually while we're talking about them, because they are sort of the main pairs that we're looking at for next week. Now, if I just get rid of this, have a nice clean chart, you can see here the Aussie dollar has been very, very bullish. Minor pullbacks, minor pullbacks, minor pullbacks. So at the moment, we're at a sort of stage that we need to be wary and just keep an eye on it very early in the week, because you can see here, weekly, quite bullish. Now, this is happening on a few Aussie dollar pairs. Remember what I said about when price pushes down and creates a pin bar at the bottom like this? Price will often come back down and retest it. It's like finding the bottom of a swimming pool. If you're in the deep end, you don't know where the bottom is, so you go down, you find out where it is first, and then the second time to be able to be pushed back up, you go down, and you push back off the second time once you find out where the floor is. So it's the same here as the ceiling. So we can see here we spiked up, sort of hit a ceiling here, and price is coming back up to sort of test this level once again. So on here on the daily, we can see quite bullish as well. Bullish candle overtaking bullish engulfing, but we are coming to a level which is going to be sort of make a break at the moment, early part of the week. We've come up to the 78% retracement level at the moment, as you can see, and 4 hour we're sort of starting to hover, starting to halt around these levels. Now, early in the week, I'm going to be watching to see what this does, because we can either, there's two options here, obviously, but we could just melt down hit from around these levels quite early in the week and start pushing down and not really give much of a chance to enter later in the week. So we want to be watching very, very early. This might start pricing in to start pushing down early in the week. However, being up here and around the 78.6, we have closed just above it. It's given us signs that this can push up higher and make a new higher high first. Either way, overall, what we're looking for is the short trade, as I think this is well overdue a push back down. So we've had, you can just see here on the 4 hour chart, we've had one push to the upside, two push. We're going to come up, have this third push, and then we're going to have that push down. So early in the week, what we're going to be looking for, guys, is I mentioned this last few weeks, is taking trades, both sides of the market, hedge trading, so it covers us in both positions. So if we see a pullback down here early in the week, we may be looking for a nice little long trade back up, which may extend above this previous high. If we can see a little pullback down, and what this will do is if we can get into this position here and take this long, then once we're in profit here and we're at break even and we take some profit, this pushes up, then this gives us sort of a free trade, or a free short trade, because if we take a short here but price continues to push up higher with the news and so on, and hits our stop loss, we may even get into profit first and have a stop loss at break even, and then it hits our stop loss at break even once we're in the trade. No matter what happens there, even if we have a loss, we're still going to be making money on this trade. So what we're going to be doing is we're looking for this big short trade coming on Aussie dollar, US dollar. But to cover ourselves, we're going to be looking at taking that Aussie dollar long. That's what hedge trading is about. I spoke about hedge trading many, many times. It's a magnificent trading tool to use, and should always be implemented if possible, especially in a situation like this where we're expecting a push down next week. If we see a push up, then we can look at taking that long trade up against it. So we're protected in both ways, and we can make money on both sides of the market. So in summary, on Aussie dollar pairs and New Zealand dollar, I am expecting that push down quite soon. I am expecting it next week, but we're just going to be watching it very, very carefully to see how we react around this level. We've got a little bit of a range happening here. We could consolidate for the first few days. We might see a bit of a push down, which would be a bit of a grab, liquidity grab back down into sort of these regions here, where we find support, where we can look for a trade up and then look for the sell-off. But vice versa, we need to be we just need to be on our toes. We saw how the US dollar opened up last week and just got moving straight away. So straight from the off this week, we're going to be watching Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar very closely. We also know that on Monday we got that New Zealand on Monday morning, so 4 hours after the market open, that we do have some New Zealand dollar news coming out as well. So that might kick this into gear as well. So New Zealand dollar, similar situation, Aussie dollar. We're pushing up here, hitting that 78.6% retracement level on the daily chart, as you can see here. Rejected it quite nicely. So we watching this to see what the news is going to do. Will the news, this may give us an insight as to what the other pairs, the Aussie dollar pair is going to do as well. If this should break back down, show some bearish signs, then we can jump in and look at riding this down. But will this come up and try and take out the previous high? Will it come up and try and take out this high with that news first and make a higher high? A higher high preferably would be even better for us. It'd be a nicer short, same as Aussie dollar. So I would prefer this to actually pull down and make that higher high, because then the risk reward is much better. For instance, here you probably have to be looking at a stop loss just above previous high, which is quite tight when you're in a range like this. We can spike up to the upside or above the previous high. However, if this pushes up, we make a higher high. We know, regardless of whether it's a full-blown reversal or not, that once price goes up to make a higher high, what has to happen next? We're going to at least make a higher low. So that's where our first target would be if we take a short trade. So we'll be looking at coming down, hitting a higher low, take some profit, and then riding this all the way down if it breaks down completely. So yeah, ideally I would like to see a pusher up higher on Aussie dollar. So that's what I'll be waiting for. However, as I said, we will be very vigilant and watching very closely at the start of the week, in case this wants to make a move early in the week without giving us that opportunity up here. If we see a breakdown, then we can be looking at taking trades. So Aussie dollar, Japanese yen, similar situation. New Zealand dollar, US dollar are all, and Aussie dollar CAD are all the same. So we're watching out for the same situation on all these pairs. So if they all follow through, because we know they move the same, they can be trades on all of these and be a really good week. So here we can just see on a 4-hour chart, similar situation. Come down here, we're making a push up to 78.6% retracement level, possibly a double top. Watching this very closely with Aussie dollar, Japanese yen, and just seeing whether this is going to hold at this level here or if it's going to push up. So this is very important levels on all these pairs. So we just have to watch them very carefully at the start of this week. So we're watching these carefully, guys. Aussie dollar CAD, choppy as hell this pair, but this week might be the week with the Aussie dollar news that we finally get out of this tight range. You can see here we've been stuck within this range. What we've got here, you can see here 100 pip range for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. So yeah, it's consolidating, but we know that price likes to have a fake out. And what does price like to do before it makes a reversal? Take out the previous highs. So we can expect Aussie dollar to try and make another move higher, and it might try and make a move down lower first early in the week, then make that move up higher, which, as I said, we might be able to look for that long trade, same as Aussie dollar, US dollar. But we know that overall it likes to take out the highs. Going back to Aussie dollar as well, we know that especially if we're going to have a full-blown reversal, that price likes to take out the highs before that. So what we could see here is a spike up here, and then bang, we have that move back down. So as I said, looking for that push up on Aussie dollar. Just wary of the start of the week and seeing if price starts to price in. But if we can see a little pullback, it could be a nice long trade from around these regions, nice long trade up. And then so once we get up into those regions up here, then we look for taking the opposite and then taking it all the way back down. So looking forward to Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar pairs. Aussie dollar, Japanese yen, again, we're going to take these out. More than likely take out the high. Aussie dollar CAD, you can see this after 10 days of consolidation. There's going to be a bit of trickery, a bit of movement on both sides of the market, move up, look very bullish. what we likely will see, typical psychology of the market, guys, is something like this. Let's just say this is a candle, see a break up, or we come up here, maybe test this again, invite short sellers in, then push up, maybe a little spike up to the upside, again bringing short sellers in, then bang, we see a big candle here. People try to hold on who've taken a short trade, then bang, we might have a little pullback first, but then bang, and then you have another one where it just looks way too bullish, and people who are trying to short this just think, no, this is going to go to the moon. And then what happens next? Something like this. This happens a lot, guys. Psychology in the market. People trying to hold on to short, taking short trade, try and hold on, push up, they say, I'll hold on one more candle, I'll hold on one more, then it makes a bullish candle, and it looks like this is going to go to the moon, and literally the next candle will engulf the rest. Market trickery. So yeah, but not saying that's exactly going to happen. Sometimes you have little pullbacks and so on, but things like that can happen. So just look out for that on different pairs as well. You'll see it. Let's just see if we have. Let's see. This has been in an uptrend. Let's just see. Just while I've just mentioned that, let's just see if there's any examples of this. You can see a little bit here. So we've got high to come up, resistance. Saying, come on guys, take a short. And then price pushes up, has a bit of a wick, so there's a chance of it coming back down. People may try hold on, then it pushes up again, and then, so I said, it plays around a bit. Then you have a really bullish candle, and then this candle, imagine this candle when it was fully green. And this is what happens, guys. This candle would have been green at the top. So imagine it wasn't red when it was in the middle of the candle, or in the middle of the time frame. It was pure green. So then we're seeing green, bullish candle, and then when this was at the top, this would have been so bullish that this is where people would say, right, I need to get out the market. Then what happens? Bang, 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 bang. Little pullback, try and get anyone else who was in there, stop losses and so on that got in early, then bang, back down again. But see what I've just showed you up at the top, how it's played out here? That's the psychology of the market. So this is why when you know that, you can wait, be patient. So I should have deleted it in there, but yeah, here. Won't happen every time, but highly probable that we'll see a push up here. And then that's what I said, don't get the fear of missing out. So when a lot of people, what also happens on the opposite side of that psychology is once you have 1, 2, 3 candles, so you might have a candle come up like this, and then it doesn't. Then you might have a small one that comes down slightly, doesn't really form a retracement. Sorry guys, doesn't form the full retracement back down to retest. And then when you have next bullish candle like this, people go, oh shit, I'm gonna miss out on this trade. Let me jump in. It's long. Let me jump in. So that's the people trying to jump in, fear of missing out. Jump in here. So see, it's the psychology in catching people out on both sides. So people that are looking for longs, they jump in here. People who have taken a short trade, when they might move their stop loss, they're holding on. They see that this candle, think it's pulling back, think it's going to be okay. Then it pulls back up. They see a massive bullish candle like this. They say, oh, I've got to get out of the market. They close their trade. And then new people get in. And then what happens is the next candle, fear of missing out, might go a few pips in profit. And then bang. Takes them out. And these people wish they never closed. Watch that market psychology, guys. That happens time and time again. So anyway, didn't mean to go into that in too much detail, but as I said, as we see different things in the market, we just watch out for them. It might not happen here, guys, because we have to watch how the market opens on Monday. But when you've been in consolidation for 10 days, there's bound to be a bit of play at the either at the bottom or at the top before with a fake out, basically a bit like a triangle, a bit of a fake out in either direction before the real move happens. So ideally we want that push up on Aussie dollar, US dollar. If you can give us a pullback in order to get that long, would be great, because then we're protected when we take our short trade down. So that's what we're watching out for on all those pairs. So let's go back to the US dollar. So obviously we have to watch out for the US dollar. Funny finish at the end of the day, but I do still think that we have that upside potential, as I said. So looking at that, we go to Euro USD here. So as I said on Thursday, Friday, expected this to have a bit of a pullback here. Wasn't a great week. We just kept dripping down on Euro USD. Expected this to have a pullback on non-farm payroll. She had a fake move down. Had a fake move down the day before. Non-farm payroll kind of came down, made a double bottom. We pushed up here, but I don't believe in this push up. I think we will extend this push up early part of the week, Monday, Tuesday. Also giving that US dollar weakness to Aussie dollar pairs, NZD USD. Aussie dollar weakness, maybe find a support down here. Just very, very early at the start of the week. Not a massive push up, I don't think. But I expect a bit of a push up, and then we're going to see that push back down on Euro USD. I think Euro USD is going to come back down and test this low. Take out this low here. This is a bit weak. Take out this low. Take out this low and possibly form a double bottom here, or just take out this low, and then we're going to see bullish potential from Euro USD and a lovely swing trade. We can come back up and break that 1.100. I think this level will hold, this daily level here, quite strong, but I think we can pull back down into sort of these regions. If these hold a support, because this daily, this will mean that this is holding a support and this is a retracement support. If this level holds, then there is a really, really, really nice swing trade all the way up. So what we're going to be looking out for this week as well, I see Euro weakness again this week. Euro was one of the weakest pairs last week. Australian dollar was the strongest, it seems, from across the board. What I'll be watching out for this week is for us to take a short here, because I am expecting the long trade up. But again, taking a short trade against it will protect us, will make profit on the way down, and it will protect us when we're taking a long trade. So looking for this to potentially push up to sort of these regions, and we'll see if early in the week we can look for a trade back down. So obviously, if we're expecting the US dollar to get weaker and then push up, then the same vice versa, we're expecting Euro USD to push up and then push down. But just watching this US dollar, remember we do sort of have this support. We could break out below these, potentially take out this low before pushing up. If we did that, then I think the push up would be very, very fast. So Euro USD, that's the situation there. Euro GBP is a bit tricky, guys. Not all pairs you can analyze and say, all right, this is definitely going to go this way next week. Though we do that on about 20 pairs every week, 15, 20 pairs. Sometimes you just need a bit more price action. So there's no point trying to analyze a pair that is hard to analyze. Leave it and go to a pair that's easy to analyze. So here we can see Euro GBP is just very, very choppy. Has been for quite some time, between 0.8700 and 0.8800, which is 100 pips. We've been that way since the 22nd of April. We had a little pop up, but apart from that, even going back as far as the 8th of April, so a month ago, we've been within 100 pips, up, down, up, down, up, down. I do think that this can push down into sort of these regions, test these levels. If this level holds, then we're going to see a really nice trade back up. But these levels are important. If we see these levels break, we can see a big push back down, come down to about 0.8600. But so I'm not actually going to call it on this just yet. But however, if we see price push down into sort of this region and it holds, there will be a very, very nice long trade up. But I'm going to just stand aside on that one for the moment. But I do see some more downside, because if we look at Euro NZD and Euro AUD, you can see that we are looking very, very bearish from last week. I said Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar were sort of the strongest pairs last week, or strongest currencies. However, is it pricing it in before the news this week? This is what we've got to think about. Now we can see here weekly Euro NZD tested support, pushed all the way back up, so it found the bottom of the deep end, pushed all the way back up. Now we're coming back up to retest, coming back down to test that again. Can we get that bounce from here? Now this is very, very interesting levels, because obviously we know what we're thinking about Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar anyway, but also we're coming back down and testing this weekly support. Now what do we do before we have a full-blown reversal? Take out the previous low. So we're coming back down, testing that daily low. At the moment, low, low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high. We're going to come down and make a lower low. As I said with Aussie dollar, US dollar, so if it makes a lower low, it makes the trade better, because it makes a risk reward better as well. Because you know that if it comes down and makes a lower low, we've got to come back up and make a lower high. However, again, like other pairs, there's a possibility of a little pullback up to take a little intraday trade down to protect our long trade back up. We may do that. At the moment, we're looking quite bearish, looking like we could come back down to 1750, which is about another 100 pips. So there is a possible intraday trade there, but I'm just wary of how the market opens. After such a bearish candle like this, it seems a little bit too obvious that we're just going to continue the next day. So often what happens on Friday, then on Monday we can see a little bit of a change compared to that, just like what we saw with the US dollar last week. Big bearish push and then bang, it changed, because the current climate things change over the weekend. So yeah, keeping an eye on these pairs, Euro NZD, just seeing, are we going to just find support here straight away early in the week? Are we going to get it priced in? Is price going to start moving in the desired direction straight away early in the week? This is what we've got to watch out for. However, at the moment, I do see us coming down a little bit lower and just clearing this level and making a proper lower low. So same as Euro AUD. Again, on the weekly chart here, you can see that weekly candle pin bar normally spells out that we're going to have a reversal. But the price can often come back and retest these lows. Euro AUD, we haven't quite tested these lows just yet. Drop down to the daily, you can see we're not too far away. But just below that, we do have that monthly key support level. So looking at this coming back down and tapping this level, and then we could have that full-blown reversal. So as I said, if we can see any sort of intraday trades where a price pops up and we can see a little trade back down, might be slightly risky, but it'll be worth it to have that protection, to have that trade where we can take a little short trade down if it pops back up, and then we could potentially look at then taking that long trade afterwards. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just expecting a little bit more downside at the start of the week, but again, market open is going to be very, very important. Euro JPY, so we're looking at this last week. Been saying that I like this as a push to the upside. Let me just go to the daily. We've been very, 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 very bearish. I'm just going to delete those off for a second. Actually, no, let me put them back on, just because I want to cover what we said on Friday. Now, Friday I said that this is pulling up. It's making its first push higher, showing that the bulls are stepping into the market. We want to see a pull back down. Explain that we could possibly even looking at taking a sell here on Friday. But non-farm payroll, and then I could see the Japanese yen strength. So that's why we took that GJ trade on Thursday as well. We did have that pullback here, but very, very small and sharp pullback, push back up. We made new highs. Now, the same thing still stands. We've had that first push up on Euro GBP. Just go to the daily chart. Remember I said last week at how bearish this is, but how quickly things can change. And we just see here now, all of a sudden we've got a morning star sort of formation, or two bullish candles out of nowhere, when it was bearish, 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 dropping off the face of the earth. Then all of a sudden, bang. That's what happens, the market psychology. So here, we're having the first push up. Quite bullish here at the moment, so you might extend this up slightly at the start of next week. However, we will be looking for that pushback down. We will be looking for potential short trade around these levels here, which will be intraday, but we do overall want the long trade from here. This on Euro JPY, I've said it a few times, is lining up to be a beautiful trade and a long-term trade. So once we can get into the long on this, then we'll be looking at it pushing back up to the upside. And then we'll be even looking at scaling in and adding trades. If this once this plays out, might be a bit more messing around before this plays out, but then once we look for pushes up, we'll be looking for a pullback down where we want to add and continue to add and continue to add and continue to add. So these type of trades that will be also taken over the next coming weeks. So I'm looking for Euro JPY bullishness, but there is euro weakness at the start of the week that I'm expecting. So that's why I will be watching out for potential short trade, intraday trade here, just to get on into the market. Remember, you never know 100% what the market's going to do, but if the opportunity is there, we can get into the market. This may not be a trade that will make us loads, but it can still, for instance, we might have a nice 1, 2, 3% down here, and we bank half of it and move stop loss to break even. But it's not always about the profit on this trade. It's about, if we're looking for that trade back up, then should this go against us the first time and we lose 1% on this trade, then this trade continue pushing down means that we don't lose 1% on that trade because we're actually making money on this trade. So then it gives us a chance to get into the market. So I'll explain more next week as we look into that. But looking for EURJPY to make a push back down before making a push back up higher. You can see here, got a nice little sort of head and shoulders formation in there. Expect price to come back down, retest this low again. See this little pin bar, come back down and retest this area. Maybe come down a little bit lower. And then from there, we're looking for that nice trade back up. So that's the 50% at the moment. Looking to come back down to around 61.8%. But remember, we may push up at the start of the week with the Japanese yen. We may push up a little bit higher, come back down, test the 61.8% retracement level, and then move up to the upside. GBP USD. So I just want to highlight on this. So seen some pound strength at the end of last week. Seen a nice little push up. Again, I analysed this last week or a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at taking that short trade that stopped us out just up at these highs here, and explained that we were looking at downside potential to come down to 1.2250, and even that if we could break that, the doors could open up to 120. So we're looking at a sort of a big 500 pip sort of trade or 600 pip trade there. So now we pushed down. Last week we were looking from around these levels here for a pull back up into the monthly resistance 1.2500 to look at a short, but with that US dollar strength, just kept pushing and never really let off for GBP USD for us to get the ideal entry that I wanted. Now, just monitoring this, we can see here 1, 2, 3. We've had a bit of a bullish day on Friday. However, you can see how it didn't end very, very bullish. And this morning star formation is quite weak, 1, 2, 3. So this spells out that this isn't really going to be strong enough to push up just yet. However, I do see a little bit more of a pull up, but not a full-blown reversal. So what we're looking at here is price coming up and coming back up to around this 1.2250 level once again. The level that we were trying to wait for this to push up and tap last week. Now we pushed down. I did say I expected GBP to push down at the start of last week. So we were trading around here. Said I expected it to push down, but obviously it came down lower than expected. Because I only wanted it to push down for us to then push up to take the short trade at the early part of the week. However, it just continued to push down. But now the analysis still sort of stands in line. Hasn't played out exactly how we said, as in the time frame. I wanted it to push down Monday, Tuesday, then pull up to sort of the 1.2500 level for us to short early in about mid part of the week. However, we just continued to push down. Now we're putting it back up to that level, and we're watching out for this level. See how the 61.8% lines up absolutely perfectly with the monthly resistance here, 1.2500. So, and you can also see absolutely perfectly to the T is down here, this support level lining up with the Fibonacci extension, absolutely in line. So the 61% is lining up perfectly. The extension is lining up perfectly. So this trade looks really, really good. So I am watching for this to come, for the pound to at the start of the week to continue to push up into sort of these regions. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder that we were waiting for last week. Remember, we were trading here. We were in this range most of the early part of last week. We wanted to pop up to tap left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then push down. However, I still think now we're going to come back up here into this region, tap into that level, and look for that short trade. So I expect this to push up a little bit more at the start of the week. Again, US dollar weakness at the start of the week, where we're expecting Euro USD to push up slightly, the dollar index to have a little bit of weakness before then pushing up. If we see that, then that plays out, then expecting some resistance at this level, 1.2250, and from here we can look at taking a nice short trade. Now, if this does play out, and the US dollar does play out as I'm expecting, remember everything can change, so we have to update during the week. But if that does play out, then I think we can be seeing this still come back down to this 1,200 level before making a huge reversal back up to the upside. But regardless, I'm still expecting 122.50 to come down to. But if we come to here, I'm expecting 126, 122, and then possibly onto 1200. So watching out for that coming into next week. GBP, JPY, the Japanese yen looks quite weak at the moment at the end of last week. However, over a whole week, it was quite strong. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it was quite strong. Thursday, as we saw with Euro JPY, we saw that it was just not letting the Euro pair up for any air last week, just pushed. Saw it on other pairs as well, but then Thursday, Friday sort of let up, but it could be temporary before the bigger reversal. So also with GBP JPY, I am expecting some more upside here. So we created this new 1 hour trend, as I said last week, which is in line with the overall trend, which is why we like to take it. We got a higher high, a higher low. Now we've broken this level here and closed, have a strong close above it here, making a higher high. Coming into Friday, before this candle happened, we closed out. You can see that we were starting to struggling to break above and close above this level at 6 o'clock when this candle closed. Therefore, we know coming into the end of the day, market slowing down. Let's just take some profit, which we did at this level here, 1.5% banked altogether. And we let this pull back down now on market open, where it's going to play around on Monday, and we could potentially look at taking a new trade back up. We just see here, we've got this level here, which is sort of acting as a potential inverse head and shoulders as well. Left shoulder, we've got this support over here. So we've got left support, left shoulder, head, resistance, breakthrough, retest as support, make a right shoulder, and then push up to the upside. So we can look at jumping in, rather than letting price push against us and losing our profit here, we can look at now re-entering so we gain more. So that's what I was explaining last week. Then up here, if this is going to, if pound plays out like I'm saying, then we're going to find some resistance here on GBP JPY. We're going to see a lower high, and then what we're going to see is another lower high around these levels and a sell-off. That's what we're looking at for on GBP JPY. GBP AUD, quite weak last week. Pound weakness and Aussie dollar strength. I think Aussie dollar may have been one of the strongest currencies, as I said, just not really letting up. So with these pairs like Euro AUD, Euro NZD, GBP AUD, where we've been watching for an entry, it took patience not to jump in, and it took patience to. There was many times here last week where it was the market was trying to show us that there might be enough here for a push up, but there wasn't really enough of a retracement to get into a short trade either, as I said, because these are very volatile pairs and they can move 50 pips in one candlestick. For instance, if you see a pullback here and you say, okay, this is a retracement, and you have a stop, that next candle can stop you out quite easily before pushing back down. So pushing back down here, you know what we're expecting from Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar pairs, that we're going to see a pullback on these pairs. So what happens before we see a reversal? Take out the last low. So we're taking out the last low here on GBP AUD, expecting this to drop a little bit further at the start of the week. And what I've added on is, we can see this is the monthly support. I've added on the next weekly support. But remember, guys, that you can always split these into two, like this, to get daily levels. Just like how we work out on the monthly, we put the 50% on the monthly. From once you get your monthly resistance, monthly support, 50% halfway through the middle, it gives you your weekly. You can also do that again and find some daily levels. So you can see here, I've added a weekly down below here. Now, if we just put this Fibonacci on and find out the 50% region, see here, we'll delete that, see how it lines up. You can see here that these daily levels I've added, support, resistance through here, we've got some support, resistance, support. So this level could be the next level. We need to see where this is breaking a monthly support. We need to see where is a possible next entry on this. And on some pairs, you can even break it down one more time, especially on pairs that are more volatile. like this. You can see there may be levels, so you can try and test it out, guys. So looking at this, pushing back down, and then pushing back down, and then we'll be looking at this making a move back up to the upside. Very, very bearish. Low, low, lower high, coming down, making a low, low, and it's going to push up and has potential to come all the way back up to these levels and possibly even higher. Aussie dollar pairs we've covered. Let's have a look at the US dollar pairs. So US dollar JPY, similar situation. First sort of bullishness sign coming out of US dollar Japanese yen for a while. Here we can just see that I've marked out left shoulder, head, possible right shoulder. Same like Euro JPY. I think we might just creep up slightly higher at the start of the week, but we have the US dollar weakness. This will bring this down nicely at the start of the week into these levels. Well, this could be a very nice trade actually, because if the US dollar does weaken into these levels and then finds strength and pushes up from here, then what we can expect is, we know that we're expecting Japanese yen weakness early part of the week. So if we see US dollar weakness down to this level, where we can find a right shoulder, and we see US dollar strength step in and Japanese yen weakness, we can see a really nice push up and a bigger move on Japanese UJ than we've seen for a while. You can see here 1, 2, 3 morning star formation, looks quite strong. So now this gives us an indication we maybe have a reversal on here. So we're looking for this right shoulder, and then again another nice long trade on UJ. Nice potential setup. USD CAD, quite an eventful week for USD CAD. This area is an area where I was looking for taking a big short, a big sell-off. Didn't get the long from here to push up into that level. However, we didn't make it to that level. We found a double top and sold off sharply. Again, I think I started about midnight or something. Yeah, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then we've been pushing down ever since. However, we're coming back down. This is quite interesting. I'm going to see how this level, how it reacts around here. I think if this level holds, we can still come back all the way back up to these levels. We need to see how the US dollar is going to react. Again, US dollar coming in very, very important. Yeah, and also if the Aussie dollar, US dollar, this continue, we can see this bit of space here of Aussie dollar, US dollar from the resistance. And then we know if Aussie dollar pushes up, USD CAD will push down. I see the bit of space here we have on USD CAD as well, between here and the double top. We could just come up here, make a double top here on Aussie dollar, US dollar, USD CAD similar. And then if Aussie dollar, even if we do see that push up and we see Aussie dollar sell off, then we could see USD CAD push all the way back up again. But these levels are where we're going to want to see a long term swing trade on USD CAD. And then remember, we're looking for a big sell off on Aussie dollar, but don't forget what our long term has been on this. We've been expecting a big pullback on this for a while, but we still expect, once we get that daily pullback, we're expecting a swing trade on this, but then an even bigger swing trade is going to go back up again. Same on a lot of these US dollar pairs, like Euro USD, coming down to these levels, then having a big swing. So that's what we're looking out for there on USD CAD. And that's about it, guys. That's everything that we normally cover. Anything else I'll add to the charts. Anything else that pops up, I look at other pairs, but these are the main pairs that we cover so you can understand them. But that's about it. So exciting week. Remember, watch it from the market open, as we saw last week with the US dollar. So be watching the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar straight away. And they're the main pairs that we're looking to capitalize on this week. Euro pairs are interesting, as mentioned, and yeah, pounds is quite interesting as well. But definitely the Aussie dollar pairs and New Zealand dollar pairs will be interesting this week, and Japanese yen pairs as well. So sort of the Asian side of the pairs, the Asian session pairs. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Have a great rest of your weekend. Hope you have a good one, and I will speak to you guys on Market Open. Thank you.